and welcome back to our homestead. Today I'm going to be fertilizing tomatoes. It's an early evening and that's a perfect time to fertilize my tomatoes. A week ago we transplanted them from the greenhouse when they were seedlings, well, they were big seedlings, into the open garden. And when we were planting them, we were using compost, our own compost, to amend the soil. But see, the thing is that when they are transplanted into a new environment, that is stressful time for them. And I need to give them a little boost of something. So I learned this new trick. Apparently it's not new, but it's new to me. So this is my first time using it and I'm still learning how to use it. And I looked at 2 different websites and YouTube channels, and I read it in my native language. And apparently it's quite popular in Europe, and I'm gonna be doing it today. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about using fermented water. This is yeast, okay, that's been fermenting for 3 hours. So it's no longer active, okay? Actually, the bubbles are already coming down. So what is that? So here's the basic solution for this spray. I have 2 cups of warm water. I'll test it to the finger. It's pleasant warm. It's not too hot because too hot will kill the yeast right away. And I'm taking a tablespoon of regular dried baking yeast. I just like to store in bulk in my fridge. Okay, so that's all we need, just this yeast in here. And to that, I'm going to be also adding a tablespoon of sugar. And the reason why I'm going to be, actually dropped a little. And the reason why I'm going to be adding sugar is because the yeast needs to eat something to develop. So I'm just going to stir this all up. All right, I'm all set with this. I'm going to stir it all up. And it's best not to keep into the small container because the small container it's going to start bubbling over and it's going to make a lot of mess. So I'm going to stir it all up. And I'm going to put it in a bigger container. You can put it in a big jar or in a big container like this. Okay? So that's all it is. It's just a couple of cups of warm water. And I'm going to just cover everything and I'm going to let it sit and rise on my kitchen counter for about 2.5 to 3 hours. So I took regular baker's yeast, dried yeast, and I mixed it with a little bit of sugar, with a little bit of water, and I let it sit and ferment its thing for about 3 hours. So all those bubbles went up like crazy and they started subsiding and they're almost all down. So the next step is I am going to be mixing it, further diluting it in water. So because this is my first time using it, I am still learning about this yeast solution fertilizer. I looked up on different websites, Russian websites, American websites, and I learned a few things. So I'm just going to read so I don't make a mistake. Baker's yeast, and by the way, the yeast can be fresh that comes from those little blocks and you crumble it up, or the dried active yeast. It's high in vitamins, protein, microelements, and it's useful as a natural bacteria, and it has iron. Now, farmers, gardeners, homesteaders who try to have organic and natural gardens often rely on everyday things to combat bugs or to stimulate growth or enhance the taste of their vegetables and fruit. We often look for everyday things in our kitchen, including yeast. In the past, I have used different things to help my garden. And you can look through all of my gardening videos and see what things I like to use. So this is going to be my first time using it. So this yeast solution has been active and working for about 3 hours, and all the bubbles went up and now they're all coming down. And now I need to further dilute it because this yeast solution can be sprayed on a plant and it can be watered into the root, and that's what I'm going to be doing. The best time is early morning before the sun is up, or in the evening when the sun is down. So that is the best time to fertilize plants, and I always follow that rule. It's the best rule. The other thing, that important rule to keep in mind, is that when using any kind of fertilizer, doesn't matter what kind of fertilizer, the soil around the plants must be moist. Not dry and not soaking wet, but moist. It's going to be the best way to absorb to the root of the plant and have the best results. So I have a drip system for each and every plant going, and it's slowly dripping and saturating the soil with fresh water. I'm going to be turning that off. It's been going for about 40 minutes now, I think, and we've had no rain for the last week and a half, so the soil is quite dry. The other reason why gardeners like to use yeast solution is because it helps to increase plants' natural immunity. Tomatoes are susceptible, like any other vegetable plant, are susceptible to diseases, and single cell yeast compound is one of those helpful things to increase the immunity in the plant. So like I said, this has been sitting and fermenting for the last 3 hours. So now it's time for me to further dilute it. And I'm not going to be spraying it on the plants. I'm actually going to be diluting it and watering under each and every plant. So remember my formula. For 1 tablespoon of dried yeast, I used 1 tablespoon of sugar. And the sugar was something for the yeast to eat and ferment and develop, okay? So now I'm going to be diluting it in about 2.5, well actually I have 3 gallons of water. Water should be non-chlorinated because it's best for this solution to work, okay? So I have 3 gallons of water and I'm going to be mixing it all together. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix all of this solution in here, stir it all up, and now this solution, my friends, is going to be my fertilizer. All right, so it's like murky water, little milky water here going on. So I'm just gonna stir it through, make sure that it's distributed nicely. So how much for each plant? I read different literature, and I think because this is a home remedy, really, truly, this is home remedy. When you're making yeast solution and pouring it for your tomatoes, it's a classic home remedy. So I'm gonna be pouring about 1 cup to 1.5 cups under each plant. I like to make a little well around the plant like this. So that way my fertilizer, my water will not run down, but instead will be just around the plant. See? Because if there was no well, all my hard work would run down a hill and the plant would not get any fertilizer or any water. So a little well is a good idea. If you're still watching me, congratulations, because I'm about to reveal a little surprise that I did not mention in the beginning. So this yeast solution fertilizer is great for the plants. However, it depletes the soil of certain nutrients. So I need to replace those nutrients back into the soil. This fertilizer should not be used more than 3 times in a season. So this is why I'm doing this in the beginning. Then I will repeat it again a little bit later when it's in full bloom and the tomatoes are popping in. I'm gonna do it again. So I need to replenish some of the nutrients. 2 nutrients that disappear from the soil, or deplete I should say, in the soil when I use this fertilizer is calcium and phosphorus. I will be making a video about a natural way to replace calcium into the soil. So please sign up and stay tuned for that. Also, I'm going to be using wood ash from your fireplaces, from your campfires. Save your wood ash, especially if there's like no chemicals in it, of course. And I'm going to be sprinkling that now under each plant, just a little bit. And that is going to help you replace some of that calcium and phosphorus back into the soil. And potassium as well. Just a little bit under the roots, and the water will bring it into the soil. So you may ask, what else can we use this fertilizer for? This fertilizer can be used on any vegetable plant, including strawberries. Strawberries love that yeast solution as a spray and as a fertilizer under the root. So I'm going to be making this for my strawberries, for my cucumbers, for my zucchinis in the near future.